a little bit about that crossover season that we're talking about. Everyone's kind of going through it. It's still a moving target. What sports are coming back when, depending on the conferences and the levels and all that different kinds of stuff. We had a similar conversation about this at our SVG summit back in December, where some of the guys like Jim Nachman from Penn State and John Kavadak from UCF were kind of talking about how, hey, you need to have these conversations with your athletic department about setting expectations at a time where you could have as many as 3 different seasons theoretically overlapping at once under certain circumstances. Now, at this point in the calendar, you assume you've had those conversations already. Derryl, if you could, at what point in the planning stage or that kind of communication stage with the entire athletic department are you at, and do you feel comfortable with I guess you want to be able, it's not that you don't want to do these things, but if you're going to have 7 sports playing on one Saturday, what do we, you can only do so much. What was that process like for you, kind of communicating that and being like, this is what we're actually physically capable of doing, and it might require a little bit of sacrifice from all of us?
Oh, I started that process in July, and I kept repeating the same line over and over and over again. It's like we only have so many bullets in the gun. So we can only do so much. And depending on what the schedule looks like, we're going to do what we can. But depending on what the schedule looks like, if we have 4 things happening, 5 things happening on a given Saturday, a given Sunday, we got to have a pecking order. Now, what has helped us out is luckily our schedule has helped us out. Like we have a really bad weekend coming up this weekend. But other than that, it has really helped us out. The one thing that has been really weird for us is that's unusual. If I skip ahead to one of your questions you may ask is our radio has not traveled for our events. So football radio stayed home, basketball radio for men's and women has stayed home, and we also do radio for volleyball. Those events have all come out of our studio here at Illinois. So we've had to make arrangements with other Big Ten schools to get camera feeds, nat mic, you name it, sent back to us and make those arrangements. So not only are we doing these streaming events for the home events, but then slap a men's basketball game on the road somewhere else, and we have to accommodate that in the studio. So it's been a juggling act. But the conversation, going back to your original question, the conversation has been had multiple times. We can only do so much. And for the most part, people have been very, very understanding because I think if you go out of your way to try to do as much as you can, when you actually do say no, that there's a little bit more weight to it.
Sure. Yeah, totally. So what is your weekend, if you don't mind going down the list?
So we have on Friday, we have men's tennis, composite stream, volleyball on Friday. On Saturday, we have wrestling, volleyball, tennis. On Sunday, on Saturday, we also have away women's basketball and away men's basketball. And then on Sunday, it is men's and women's gymnastics and men's tennis again.
Oof, boy, I wasn't testing you. I was actually just curious, but that's pretty wild.
The reason why I know that because I just redid the schedule for the cruise before this meeting, so it's pretty fresh.
Yeah, I know. I bet. No, definitely. Stephanie, how about for you? I mean, how are you basically just trying to advocate for yourself in these circumstances where you're just kind of like, hey, if we got like 5 events going on in a single day and not everybody's getting a multicam, like it's going to have to be this or that. How have you, being relatively alone in your responsibilities on your campus, how did you navigate the political challenge of relaying that message and not being someone that because at the end of the day, you don't want to say no, but you have to somewhere. So how did you go around kind of juggling all of the things?
Well, I'm very fortunate. My boss is a great advocate. Ryan, really, he's actually on the committee that helps facilities navigate timing and where everyone has to be when. I'm also very fortunate where I only have 2 facilities to man and crew. I only have lacrosse and soccer. I only have volleyball and basketball. Any other sports we actually don't stream. It's in the pipeline to eventually start adding cameras and ESPN Plus coverage of those sports, but I'm only responsible right now for 7 out of the 17 sports that Loyola sponsors as an athletics program. I'm also very fortunate we don't have a football team and we don't have baseball and softball. Otherwise, that would add more wrenches for sure. Other than that, I think my hardest weekend is actually going to be next weekend. I've been very fortunate again. Not only has Ryan been advocating for timing and spacing, but our facilities team is also very cognizant of we need to get people out of the locker rooms that teams share so that we can clean them in between games. That saved me in a couple of instances. The league itself, we're only playing conference schedules for the fall sports that have been postponed to the spring. So volleyball is only Friday nights and Sunday afternoons, I believe. No one else has Friday afternoons. So my Friday nights are just volleyball. Saturdays, our facilities team has been in partnership with the Patriot League in order to get like double headers of the same sport, or two sports that would use the same venue back to back. So we have a lot of lacrosse at 1 at Eastern time, of course. Lacrosse at 1 Eastern time and soccer at 5. We have a few days where it's volleyball Friday night, basketball on Saturday, or basketball double headers on a Sunday. Those are fine. As long as I don't have to like split stuff, that's where I really start
panicking. I'm curious. There might be some people in the audience and some people who might watch the archive of this. There are still campuses, be them mid-majors, D2s, D3s, JUCOs, who their live video person there might only be one of them on campus, and they are alone in doing everything. The one thing I hear a lot is say, hey, get a champion that's higher up than you who can, kind of defend you in these conversations. Is there any other bit of advice, having gone through what you've been going through this year, for someone who is a one man or one woman team on a campus who's responsible for live streaming? And normally they're used to doing, easily pushing over 100 broadcasts a year. And now they're stuck holding the bag on 2 or 3 seasons overlapping at the same time. Is there anything you could do to make them feel less stressed out right now?
I'm in the same boat, so we're together. Hopefully having somebody by your side, either at a different school like myself, knowing that we're all together is a big help. At least you may not have that partnership, that support on your own campus in your own department, but you've got all of us here. Specifically university wise, I would highly advocate just be like, if you need to like film how much stuff you have and be like, look, I only have 6 cameras, but we've got 7 games going on. I physically cannot split a camera in half just to cover that last game. We've done that in the past where we're like, I've been like, I just don't have enough stuff. If you want to foot the bill for extra stuff, be my guest. I just don't have enough stuff. Gotcha.
More stuff. That's the state advice. Lucas, for you, you're talking about how you've been adding games for the upcoming season. But if and how are the conversations on your end about if there are weeks or weekends or days where the schedule gets really, really packed? Are you using a priority system, a tiered system? How's that being relayed to coaches or parents of athletes that might be disappointed in whatever? Like Derryl was saying, a lot of people are understanding considering the circumstances, but I'm sure there are people who are not, and you want to knock them upside the head and be like, you realize what's going on right now? How are those conversations being managed on your end?
Much like Stephanie said, one thing that we have is, equipment is our amount of equipment is the amount of equipment that we have. And as far as that goes, we have only one encoder. So we only have one way of sending a show to ESPN. We can only do one show at once. We only have enough cameras to do one show at once. We only have one switcher board, only one replay machine, only one graphics machine. So, we are handcuffed by, our limitations and our equipment. And so, that in some instances makes it a little bit easier to just say, look, we can only do one show today. If there is volleyball, baseball, and softball all going on today, we can only do one, and so that's when we start, we come up with a list of suggestions. If baseball is hosting the University of Texas, that's a game we're going to want to show. That's a game our fans are eager about. That's a game that Texas fans are eager to watch. That's a lot of eyes we can get on our broadcast. So that's going to be the one that we're going to suggest, and the volleyball and softball coaches are going to hear that, and they'll certainly have a little bit of input about it. And maybe, they wish that we would go a different way. But again, we looked at the baseball and softball schedule and divided 19 and 19. We tried to be as, judicious as we possibly could to give even coverage to all sports. Women's volleyball has 6 home matches. We're going to broadcast 5 of them. That 6th match is actually the same opponent as their 5th match. So we're going to show every opponent that volleyball plays against at home. We're just not going to show every game. We're going to have to miss one of those. And we tried to do the same logic with baseball and softball. Scheduling worked out. It was a little bit easier with baseball to get at least one of every single team they play at home. Didn't get to do that with softball because they have a couple single day double headers that are kind of in a tournament format. And we've got basketball, and basketball we have to do for ESPN. I mean, that priority is set for us. We don't even, if baseball and softball are playing in February and March while basketball is playing, we have no choice. There's nothing we can do. We have to wait until a Sunday game when there's no basketball and baseball or softball are playing, or a Monday game, of the series. So, some of these decisions are kind of made for us. And when you look at the schedule and you look at your equipment, it really comes down to only 5 or 6 decisions that we had to make this spring as far as what game are we going to do. And we as a marketing department, made a decision or made suggestions, took them to our athletic director, took them to the coaches, and kind of let them sit with those answers. But as what you mentioned, parents, that's an issue we ran into last year, actually. Last year, we were still able to stream not to ESPN Plus. However, we as a department decided we were going to make the ESPN Plus transition already. We were going to start letting our fans know, start letting parents know, hey, look, this is how things are going to be in the future. So this is how we're going to start it this year. And it was a real big problem for us. There was a petition that went out. One of the real aggressive softball families started a petition. They included the baseball families, the softball families. I think they got close to 400 signatures on it. And it kind of created a stink in our department. They were really frustrated that all of the women's and men's basketball games were being broadcast. They were used to all of their games being broadcast in the past. Now, granted, they may have been a one-camera show with no replay, no graphics, and radio announcer piped in, but at least it was something. And so it was a new transition for them, and they were really frustrated. And then, of course, the season got shut down, so they didn't have too much to be frustrated at us with at that point. But they were frustrated at the beginning of the year. And that was, again, part of the reason this year that we made the move to do as many broadcasts as we could to try to ease some of that anger. But even with 19 broadcasts, we're still missing 10 for both teams, baseball and softball. They both play 29 games at home. Some of those were conflicted with basketball. Some of those were conflicted with baseball and softball conflicting with each other. And you just kind of got to make those hard decisions and present it. And again, like Derryl mentioned, some people are very comfortable and they understand it, and some are not, and we'll start a petition and think that you're out to get all the softball parents and make it so they can't watch their kids. So little bit of kind of politics you got to play with that too. But it's a tough battle.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but it sounds like you guys have got a pretty good plan for this year. So hopefully everyone will be very happy over there. As long as you don't get any more snow outs,
Yeah.